So this evening I just wanted to share a quick mathematical anecdote that is somewhat well known, but if you haven't heard it before, it'll definitely delight you because it's really funny. Um, One of the greatest mathematicians of the 20th century was definitely Godfrey Hardy. He did a lot of stuff, and like a lot of mathematicians, he did some work on the Riemann hypothesis. So he had a colleague named Harold Bohr, who was Danish, and they would meet for these summers, I suppose, and try to prove the Riemann hypothesis. They would always try, and of course, they haven't succeeded. As you probably know, the Riemann hypothesis is still unproven, has a $1 million mark on it, and it's probably the problem that we would consider at the forefront of mathematics. Like, if you were to solve one problem, that's probably the problem that you want to be able to solve. Um, but one time he had to make a voyage across the ocean, which in those days was not 100% safe, so it was a little risky, and he was afraid for his life. Now, Hardy was an atheist, and in the rest of the story, you'll see that his form of atheism was probably a little different than what we would think of today, because as he set sail, he sent a postcard to his colleague stating that he had proven the Riemann hypothesis. And his logic was that that God would definitely not let the ship sink, because if the ship did sink, it would go down in history that Hardy had solved the Riemann hypothesis and the result had been lost. This is kind of similar to Fermat, who wrote in his notebook on the column that he had a proof of this, and it's still very, very debatable today whether he did. He probably didn't, but it's just interesting that as an atheist, he doesn't think that God doesn't exist, but rather that he's kind of out to get us in a way. Um, I don't know. Maybe he just believed in sort of that irony that tends to happen. So yeah.